Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic today is a profile on Miss Inez Crutchfield. And of course, we're happy to have with us this morning to give us that profile, Miss Inez Crutchfield herself. And of course, Ms. Crutchfield, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Haney, and thank you for having me.
Well, you know, Ms. Crutchfield, we had you quite a while ago, and you gave us such an excellent profile that we felt that considering all of the activities that you've been involved in since that 15 or 16 years ago that we had you the first time, that it would be an excellent opportunity to have you back to talk about Inez Crutchfield, and more specifically to talk about what we consider to be the public career of Inez Crutchfield. And let's do that by having you to start by giving us some information about your background, your education, and some of the experiences that you've had, and then we'll talk about perhaps your political career and some of the other activities you've been involved in, and perhaps at the end we'll say something about the church. Let's talk about it from that perspective.
Well, I was born in Wilson County, growing up in Watertown, Tennessee, a little town, little country town up there where everyone knew everyone else. I was very lucky in that my parents both were individuals who worked and who were able to make a living. That was pretty good for growing up in a little town like that. My dad owned a cleaning and service, tailoring and dry cleaning service, and my mother taught in the public schools in Lebanon, Tennessee. So when I say I grew up in Watertown, we went home to Watertown, but all of my education took place in the public school system in Lebanon, Tennessee, from the first grade on through graduating from high school. And my mother taught in the high school there. And I want you to know that that is something to think about. When your parent is teaching you, and she did teach me, in that small school, you only had about 4 or 5 teachers. So she taught English and literature, and everyone took English and literature. And that did not exclude me. I took, and I had to learn to say Miss Gibbs instead of mother. So it was an interesting thing. But I went all through elementary school there also. And everyone, if you were African American, you went to the public school there. If you lived in the county, outlying county, out in the county, and you might go through the 8th grade in the county school, like in Watertown, but if you went to high school, you had to go to Lebanon, because at that time there was segregation, and so the black children or African American children that attended high school there attended in Lebanon. That was just that one high school. And in many instances, as we have so frequently said, you had to pass, in Watertown, you had to pass by the high school to go to Lebanon, 13 miles away, to go to high school.
On a bus?
No, they did not furnish buses. You got your own transportation. At that time, as we said with segregation, remember I'm talking about the fact that, I guess, unlike Drew, Drew Smith says that any woman who will tell her age will tell anything. Well, I will tell anything, I guess, because I'm 76 years old. And back at that time, there were no buses for the African American children to get to school. At that time, we said the high school was in Lebanon, Tennessee, and it was called a training school. And if you look back through history, I think you'll find that many of the African American schools, or the black schools, were referred to as training schools. The county, ours was Wilson County Training School, and that said to you that that was a Negro, they called it Negro school. Now, there were even children who came from other areas, like Carthage, who didn't have a 4-year high school, and they came to Lebanon to the high school. But as I said, we only had about 4 or 5 teachers who taught in that high school. And I might say this to you, Dr. Cheney, you know, those children scored so well on tests, and I don't mean tests there in that school, but for the state, that they did investigate to find out